So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Dr Gill, and I am here with somebody who's really very important to the Northamptonshire Wellbeing Buscomm group. It's had a new name, we're all very excited about it. So I'm not going to introduce her, she's going to introduce herself. Good morning.
Good morning, Jill. My name's Judith Hanson. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a mindfulness teacher and lots of other things as well, but those are the two primary ones. And it's lovely to be here, Jill.
Yeah, it's nice. It was quite a cheery morning over in the edges of Northamptonshire here. So Judith, we are going to talk to you about what you do personally, but first of all, I know that you are the kind of host of these wellbeing groups. So could you just give us a little bit of a background, please, on the Buscomm Wellbeing Northamptonshire group?
Bit of a mouthful, yes.
Isn't it?
Paul Green, who is Buscomm, asked me if I would be prepared to co-host a wellbeing group that he was thinking of setting up. And there were some discussions beforehand about what this group should be like. Bob and I, the other co-host, had been involved in another group and therefore had some experience of what worked, what didn't. We very much wanted this to be a supportive group, a collaborative group, because a lot of the people in the room, there's going to be overlaps. We wanted it to have a different feel to other networking groups where we were looking for collaborations and support, as I've said. And it's a safe place for people in the industry to come, particularly if they're new and it's their first experience of networking. So your clients, in fact. And that's been the feedback we've had from the meetings since we started in the early autumn last year, that it has a different feel, it's very supportive, and you've been at the meetings, Jill, and there's a really lovely buzz in the room, isn't there?
Yeah.
Both before the meeting starts and after it ends, you know, people don't rush off and they stay and chat.
Yeah, and there's a really nice healthy breakfast too.
There is a nice healthy fruit and everything.
Which I approve of, clearly. Brilliant. Yeah, so I personally, I'm not a big fan of networking, and so this one, just to say, hits sort of a couple of buttons for me. One, it's not too early in the morning, so I really like that.
Me too. But
that's also quite nice because we've got people in the group who have families, so they can drop their kids off and then come to the group. But also, it's as you say, it's more collaborative, and you know, I've made some really good collaborations that I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't quite know why I was coming. I got a sense that it was a good thing to do, but I didn't really understand why until that first meeting, and I could see actually that this was going to be a really a beneficial thing. And I think I've probably missed one, but you know, it's something that I've definitely put in my calendar for every month. So great. So let's talk about you.
Okay.
So you've explained that you're a clinical hypnotherapist, but who's your focus at the moment? Who's your sort of ultimate client, if you like?
My ultimate client will be suffering from anxiety of a whole variety of kinds, general anxiety or very specific fears and phobias. So that is my ideal client.
And how old are they? Are they any age group?
Unfortunately, yes, they are any age group, and I haven't quite deliberately, marketing people will probably tell me off for this, but I haven't deliberately niched it down. So I see children from the age of 7 or 8 suffering from anxiety, which is really sad, and people up until their 80s.
Yes.
So a whole range, but you know, the issue is the same.
And so that anxiety, so there's all sorts, as you say, there's social anxiety and fears and phobias. What does that mean? What might that mean for that person if they are suffering with anxiety?
Well, if you take somebody who's suffering from general anxiety disorder, that means 24/7 they are worrying. They are worrying about what's happened in the past, they're worrying about what might have happened in the future, and life is just one constant worry, which often means they don't sleep, which makes it even more difficult for them to cope with day-to-day life. So they're really struggling.
And so what knock-on effect does that have on their life in general? I'm thinking work, partners, social. What does that really mean for them?
It affects everything. I often talk about the fact that anxiety and depression, which often goes with anxiety, takes all of the joy out of people's lives and means they are not able to function at their best at work. They're often very fearful at work, and they're not good to be with. So their relationships suffer. Particularly if there are children in the family as well, they've got no patience, often because they're not sleeping or because they're worrying. So it affects absolutely everything. Anxiety and depression are a killer physically. They physically affect our bodies, so they can kill us. And in the States, they're now classed as the #1 killer. But they actually kill you twice, because they first of all kill everything that's worth living for.
Yeah.
And then if you carry on without any help, they will physically have effects on you.
Yes. And ultimately, you know, we know that the suicide rates are, you know, very high. And of course, anxiety and depression are a big part of that, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed. Yes.
So tell us what it is that you do to help your, you know, the clients that come to you with anxiety.
Unfortunately, most people wait a long time before they seek help, partly because they see that they ought to be able to cope.
Mm-hmm.
They view that everyone else is coping, which of course they're not, but they believe everyone else is coping, therefore it is a weakness or some sort of character defect that they can't cope. So they typically come to me in quite a bad state. Yeah. So first thing to do is to help them get out of that crisis situation, using hypnotherapy, using various techniques within hypnotherapy to suit the person, their age and their circumstances. So, you know, there's a whole tool bag of things that I can do. And it's very client specific, the work that I do.
Yes, I'm sure. Because it might, you know, that I'm guessing that anxiety or depression might be the time of their life, like a woman who's in depths of menopause, or they've suffered a grief. Maybe there's been trauma in a child's life. All of that anxiety and depression the root of it, the cause of it, can come from a variety of different places.
Absolutely. And sometimes we have to deal with the trigger before we can deal with the anxiety. It really depends. And certainly my view about dealing with, you know, early life issues that can lead to anxiety and depression is, if the client feels that's where the problem is, or if we come across it as we're working together, then we deal with it. Not in a sort of, you must come and lie on my couch for the rest of your life and tell me about it way, but in a very quick way, often in one session, maximum 2 sessions. We can.
Yes, because some people might actually be very, and I know this myself, you know, some people are very concerned about hypnotherapy. They think it's a bit woo-woo. They're worried about the past life regression stuff that they might have seen on the telly or read in a book. But we want to reassure them, don't we, that actually this is a very bespoke and gentle process, and one that is not you taking over their mind.
No, I say to every single client, if I had the power to take over your mind and just make the changes that you need to make in order that you can live a happy life, I would be incredibly rich and probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now, and certainly would be somewhere where the sun's shining, which it isn't here anymore. So it's a very natural process, and all I'm doing is making suggestions which people follow. A, they wouldn't follow anything that was against their values and beliefs, and B, they interpret it, or their unconscious interprets what I say in amazing ways. And I find it delightful when people come out and say what they've done as a result of my suggestions.
So tell us then, what are the things that happen? How, you know, with this intervention that you have, what are the sorts of things that happen to your clients after they've been to you for however, how long is the average kind of time?
It's very difficult to judge because people are very different. I say it will normally take at least 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And with with fears and phobias, it's around that on average. With other forms of social anxiety, general anxiety disorder, it can take much longer, but not months and certainly not years.
So it's not like the therapy therapy couches that you hear people going into in America. I'm in therapy, you know.
I've been in therapy since I was 20. Yes. No, definitely not.
Okay, so then some of the
it's called brief therapy for a reason. And the first thing I'm looking for is for them to feel considerably better. So, you know, we're looking at some of the symptoms. I can think of a client who came to me and who couldn't even talk to me on the phone. She was so anxious. So the communication was with her husband, and he brought her to her first session. By session 4, she was going out and about. She was making phone calls. So she was beginning to pick up the threads of her life and beginning to enjoy her life again. And as we're making those improvements, I'm also teaching them techniques that they can use to self-manage. So for me, that is, I want my clients to go away with some things that they can do if they start to feel the same way again, rather than waiting until they're in crisis before seeking help. So
with that sort of newfound sort of liberation, really, I would describe it, that's the start of the journey that they can, I presume you're giving them hope. You know, not only you're giving them tools and techniques, you're giving them hope for the future, that their life is worth living.
That's even before they're a client. Everybody that that contacts me, I will talk to on the phone, and that's really the first thing I say. Yes, this can get better.
So
I know that it can get better because I've done it, worked with lots and lots of people, and they're much better now. So I know it works.
So this is life-changing stuff.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful thing to be able to do. I remind myself on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the group then, how can, I know that you're there to host and support us, but how can we support you?
I think in a whole range of ways. I think it doesn't matter how long you've been in business. In terms of the business stuff, there's always something that you can learn by, you know, the speakers we have in, maybe, or from the speakers we have in. Learn something from your presentation, was reminded of other things I'd forgotten.
Yes.
And from other people, other people have ideas. And what I'm liking about the group is it is very open and people share. So you can learn things on the business front. I'm fascinated by other therapies and other ways of dealing with the same kind of issues. And I think for some people, a combination of issues a combination of support is often helpful. So for instance, people suffering from depression, diet is important, exercise is important, which aren't specialisms of mine, but I know there are people
can
help. Sorry?
But they are of mine, so happy days.
Indeed, yes, absolutely, because nutrition is vital.
Yeah.
Particularly with depression.
And the ironic thing for me is that, you know, depressive people suffer really badly with low vitamin B levels, but of course, as soon as they go onto any form of antidepressant, it depletes their vitamin B. You know, that's the irony of it.
Because of the nature of the disease, they tend to be eating very badly and exercising very little.
Well, brilliant, Judith. So thank you very much for sharing what you do, and thank you very much for hosting the group. So
I love it. I look forward to it. It's a lovely group to work with. So.
Yeah, it's a lovely way to spend a Monday morning. So it's the third Monday of every month at 9:30 till 11 o'clock.
Yes. In the Delaprey Golf Centre.
Delaprey Golf Centre, which is in Northampton. It's just off the A40.
45.
So very easy. Yeah. Very easy. So we look forward to seeing you all there. And Judith, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
And you. Thank you very much, Jill. Bye.